I think I see a lot of parallels between the annexation of Crimea and the Russian aggression in Donbass, which was a quite hidden aggression. I mean, hidden for the Western public, at least, not so much for people who got a little bit involved and were a little bit deeper, digging a little bit deeper into this topic. But what we could see in 2014, after the annexation, there was some kind of public reaction. Oh my God, what Russia is doing. And after we imposed sanctions and the Russian disinformation machine started to confuse the audiences all around the world, people got more and more filled and with Russian narratives, with Russian ideas. More and more the idea developed in their minds that Ukraine is to blame, that Ukraine actually deserved it because of some reasons. And they were looking for any possibility to blame the victim instead of the aggressor. And now, after the full-scale invasion, which happened last year, we can see that the same is happening, but on a different scale, because we have to understand this is a full-scale invasion, that Russia still probably plans to invade Kyiv, for instance, to overthrow the government, to install a puppet regime and to annex officially huge territories of Ukraine. And still we have the same situation that on the beginning there was this shock, and a lot of people talked about how terrible this situation is. And now more and more people are defending the actions of Russia, are blaming Ukraine. We have this victim blaming, or both sidism, when they say things like they should just negotiate and they need to solve the problem. Both sides need to de-escalate, something like that. And this is the result of the Russian disinformation and propaganda that is very successful and worldwide, not only in Western societies, of course. I think the Balkan is a very important region for Russian disinformation. It's an important target region. And I guess it seems, at least what we can see from the last months, that they have a very sophisticated strategy in which they target this area. If you compare countries like Serbia and Kosovo, you see huge differences, of course. Kosovo is a pro-Western, very pro-European country, has very good, warm relations with the West. So Russian disinformation, when it targets Kosovo, it's more about destroying unity, creating trust issues with the government, so telling the people in Kosovo that everything is bad, they should not rely on the West, and somehow divide the society. On the other hand, if you take a look at Serbia, which is a very old ally of the Russian Federation, of course there are historical reasons also for that, but basically the strategy is very different. It's more about using Serbian people, population and media, but also our Serbian diaspora in the West, which is quite huge, as proxies in their disinformation war. When I say proxies, I mean in the sense of they are like puppets that repeat the Kremlin's narratives and propaganda also on social media. And they were very successful in this, because even if a lot of Serbian people have the same ideology, when they immigrate to Western countries, they learn the languages there. They are quite integrated in that sense. So you have millions of people who speak English, Spanish, German, and they can reproduce the Kremlin's narratives about Ukraine, can tell everybody at work that they are fascists, that they want to kill ethnic Russians in Ukraine, and old stories like that. And people listen to them because they are Slavic people. They think even they are experts, because they confuse all this, because people in Western Europe, unfortunately, have a lack of education about Southeastern Europe, about Northeastern Europe, and this is what the Kremlin propaganda is using. Yeah? And another goal is, of course, to gain influence in the Balkan area. So a geostrategic interest of the Russian Federation to keep or even expand influence in Serbia and surroundings. Also, Montenegro, of course, is a huge issue. When we speak about trolls, we speak mostly about real people. So they actually exist. Yeah. So there are people sitting somewhere on a keyboard or on a phone, reproducing propaganda. So not bots, because bots usually are very stupid. You can only amplify some propaganda channels. Huh? And what we see about the trolls is that they are very much connected to these topics. Yeah. So if you speak about Serbians, they have actually two topics. One is about their domestic situation or about Kosovo. They always spread Kosovo is Serbia, the old stories about 1999, their narrative and everything, and about Ukraine. Yeah, so about that the Ukrainians are to blame. Yeah, so this is quite visible, but we don't know anything about the amount. We don't know how many pro-Russian trolls are outside, because it's very difficult to measure it, and we have no clue how many of them are real people. And this makes the whole disinformation analysis very difficult. We can say what the narratives are. We can at least collect all the stories that are somehow relevant. Yeah, they're all the fake stories, but we have no real adequate data about the amount of trolls and where they come from. This is the problem with social media. You mentioned media journalists and fact checkers. I think it is very crucial that journalists and media is first of all not creating disinformation themselves, and they should be very self-critical, no matter on which side they are, because this is very important. So people trust media. We have trust issues in any country, no matter how good the freedom of the press is developed. But I think what we should really take care about in the next months is that the media should put some effort into debunking the common narratives that we can see, the common disinformation narratives. Because we have a situation where it's like you have A, what you read at the media, and B, you have some so-called alternative media or social media trolling. And then this creates this false balance. We have also a problem that we give very much screen time to people who are not qualified to speak about certain issues, and people, it was also during the pandemic, and people who even spread, for instance, Russian narratives. And it's like the media wants to be neutral, and they go to this table to create a kind of round table, and you have two people spreading the Putin version of something and two people spreading the actual truth. But as somebody who is watching television, you think, okay, maybe the truth is in the middle or something, but it's not. So this is very dangerous. So the media should act more responsible about disinformation. And of course also social media channels like Facebook, Twitter, they put some effort into this topic, but not enough yet.